Hello, hello. All right. Welcome to the design panel. If you're not familiar, if you haven't met me, I'm Darren. I am the only product designer on Bluesky right now. Hopefully there will be another one soon. Check out our careers page if you know anyone looking. But yeah, as of tomorrow, it will be my 1-year anniversary at Bluesky. So very excited. But yeah, I'm very passionate about building social media that is equitable and really values the user control of people. You know, I grew up with social media, and I'm very upset with how it has evolved over time to just kind of capture your attention at all costs and become part of that attention economy. So that's something that I'm very passionate about and a value that I hold dear to me as I'm designing for Bluesky. But yeah, we have an awesome panel planned for you guys today. I'm very grateful to be on the stage and share it with these amazing builders and designers. I think design is really at the intersection of art and technology as well as psychology, and I think their work really exemplifies that on the platform. So I have one more topic. But yeah, if you guys want to just do a quick round of intro, and then we can get started.
Hey everyone, my name's Dame. I built an app called Anasoda. It's a weird social media interface for Bluesky and the atmosphere, themed around moths and other weird things like that.
What's up, everyone? My name is Peter Montalou, and I'm a creative technologist and full-stack engineer from Denver, Colorado. I work for a company called Hovercraft Studio, where I do web and experiential experiences for companies like Nike, OpenAI, and Google. And on AtProto, I've been building AetherOS and Beacon Bits for the last 6 months or so. I'm stoked to be on the stage with all y'all. It's been a super privilege just to be here, and I want to thank you, Darren, for bringing me up here.
Hello, my name is Brooke, or you may know me as Brookie.blog. I'm the creator of Pocket Blog. It's a blogging platform that makes it really easy to start blogging for anybody. I also created the youandme.at if you have been using that at the conference. Thank you. And then I also work on Standard Site. So if you know about Standard Site, it's bringing publishers together and really making it easy to distribute publications and documents across the atmosphere.
Sweet. Before we jump into the questions, I actually just want to see a quick show of hands. How many people in the audience are designers? Would they identify as that? Cool, we have a few. And how many are builders looking to upgrade their design skills? All right, sweet, most of the room. Well, you come to the right place. All right, so we're going to fire off the first question here, which is just, what is something that you've built on that proto that you're really proud of, and what were you trying to accomplish with that project?
Yeah, so I mean, I've built quite a few different things over the past 12 months or so. I definitely would say Anasoda is the one I'm the most proud of. I've been working on it the longest, and yeah, I'm proud of it because it's something that I had a vision for. It was something that I didn't feel like existed or was even really possible prior to the atmosphere. And it really was a way for me to try to reclaim social media to be something that I felt like worked for me. You know, I've been chronically online for a long time, and you know, I took a long break from social media a couple years ago and decided I'd come back and see if I could somehow make it work again. And yes, I was really excited to try to build this basically a social media interface for myself, with the hunch that other people might enjoy it too. Yeah, so Anasoda is it's a social media interface that I think is more peaceful and more weird and fun and bizarre. It has like game components to it. It's it's based off of the name of a moth. And I'm just really excited how it turned out. It's getting better every month, and even at the conference, I put out a big release with finally a brand mark and everything. It actually looks pretty good now, so I'm excited.
Yeah. So it's pretty hard to top AetherOS getting name dropped by Paul on the stage yesterday, but I think, yeah, making Beacon Bits for the last few months, creating a 3D layer where people are interacting and having, I don't know, their beacons just influencing something on a map, and seeing like the collaboration between all that was really powerful. And at the end of this event, I'm going to be finally unveiling what happens at the end of that event, so stick around for that. But yeah, it's just been fun to be able to mess around with 3D technology on mapping like that collaboratively.
So something I'm proud of building on at Proto is Pocket Blog. Pocket Blog is my baby. And it is Pocket, not Packet or Picket or whatever else you may think it may be. And basically, the reason that I made it was because I wanted to start a blog of my own. And I actually haven't really had much time to be blogging on my own because I've been building it, and it's been so wonderful, which is, it's not a bad problem to have. But yeah, I think that really the main thing is I wanted something simpler to start blogging, and something that feels like all of the tools that you need are really at your fingertips without having to really search too hard to find everything that makes running a blog possible.
I'm glad we set the record straight that it's Pocket. I was asking around before the talk. I was like, does anyone know how to say this? Cool. So, social media has been around for, over 20 years now, since like Web 2.0 has existed. And a lot of the design paradigms have really been solidified at this point. I'm curious how you stay fresh in such a well-defined design space.
Yeah, that's a good question. I started my career in design, and I kind of took a winding roundabout path to get where I am today. I sort of merged off of design and went into sort of social media management, community management, that sort of thing. And to some degree, I sort of stopped following like design trends and like what was happening, and I just kept doing my own thing. And I mainly started making art and doing things personally. When I went to sort of design Anasoda and make it into what it is, I did not really look at really anything that was in the industry or anything. My core thesis with it is I wanted to make something that felt distinctly well and away from anything that was coming out of like Silicon Valley. When I was making Anasoda, I was reading books about moths. I was going out at night, setting up light traps and mothing, and I took tons of inspiration from all of that, as well as things like, classic text-based RPGs and tarot cards and things like that. And what came about from all that is just kind of a weird amalgamation. So I think my big takeaway from that was just like, oh, there's some really interesting things that can happen when you let influences outside of like the normal spaces come up to the surface. So I don't know, just look in weird places. There's lots of great inspiration in weird places.
Yeah, honestly, in this day and age, you can vibe code something really quickly and it'll look like any other social app. So I think there's great importance to be more avant-garde, like look for things that are outside of that space and like seek it and absorb it as much as possible. I think obviously some app experiences aren't going to work for everyone, but like if it works for you, someone will find the way you think and you'll collaborate and they'll enjoy what you're doing.
Okay, so when it comes to design, for me, it's really like simplifying things down to the basics and the essentials. So I usually will start with an idea, and it's usually much more complicated than it needs to be. So if I feel confused at all, I'm trying to look and see like, what can I take away from this to simplify the process, and how can I make it like as understandable as possible. I really try to think of things from like a user experience sort of perspective, and like all the time, like I'll build something and I'll get frustrated with it, and I'm like, this is just too hard. This is too confusing. And I'll be like, what needs to go? You know, like just cut something out and make it easier to do, because so many platforms these days are like just so overwhelming with like layers and layers of like interface, all to do one simple thing. Like, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I don't know if you've ever been like on Instagram and you're like just trying to find like a post that you've liked. You have to go through like 6 menus to find a post that you've liked. And that seems like such a basic feature. All that you do on Instagram is like stuff. So I would like to see my likes, you know? So really just like, if it feels like too many steps to do something, how can we reduce that and get it down to as few steps as possible?
Definitely. Often the most beautiful, or like the simplest option is the most beautiful and elegant one to move forward with. So what, are there any specific problems with social media today that you think can be solved through design?
Yeah, I think a lot of things can at least be partially solved through design. I think one of the biggest things is just the fact that, you know, historically with social media, everyone has been funneled through one client interface. So Facebook is used by billions of people all around the world in different cultures and communities and things. And they all have different needs and different desires and wishes and preferences and things like this. And so while like design can definitely solve some things, there's also like some amount that you can't funnel everyone through one particular thing, and it won't work for necessarily everyone. So I think some of it just comes down to having to have very specific people in mind as you're designing something. But I also think that, yeah, there are a lot of things that fundamentally, I guess over the past 20 years, we've realized are not maybe the healthiest patterns to be seeing, and some of those things can be pretty easily changed in the sense of whether it's removing things or whether it's changing the framing of something, and some of it just comes down to experimenting and figuring out, like, yeah, what is if this particular thing is not working and is making people unhappy or is not healthy or good for society, can we flip that on its head and just try something incredibly different? So, so I think design definitely can impact those things dramatically. It's to some degree the thesis behind Anasoda is like, if we could rethink how this looked from the ground up in a lot of ways, what might happen? And TBD on what that is. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't really have a concrete answer for that, but I think Aaron Kassane's talk yesterday that started off the whole thing was incredibly powerful, and it got me thinking more about what could be out of that. And I don't know what it is yet, but I want to try and do something in that regard because it's pretty powerful, I think.
Designing for AtProto specifically brings a lot of interesting things to the table. Something in particular that I've seen a lot of people sort of trying different situations with is for like authentication flow, registration flow. Because of the nature of AtProto, where you create an account and you can now suddenly log into all these wonderful services, it's really difficult to figure out how to explain that to the end user. Like, I know for most of us here, it's a pretty understandable situation, but when it comes to people that are, not used to being in the developer community, it's a really difficult thing to communicate. And we see a lot of people, writing a whole story saying like, oh, this is your everything account, and you can use it at these places, and AtProto and all that stuff. And I think it's an interesting problem of how do we explain that to the everyday person and make it feel approachable without like bombarding people with like too many terms and too many complex ideas. Because if you do get an understanding of like AtProto and like your everything handle, it does make a lot of sense, but it's a really difficult problem to communicate that with the everyday user.
Definitely. I think in many ways, there are people who are drawn to ATproto because they're almost refugees from the current landscape of social media. I did a project in my senior year of college where we identified the addictive mechanics of social media, and then we built an arcade that exposed each of those mechanics separately. And we did an exhibition where families would come in and like kids would start playing the game, and they would love the game, and then we would like, at some point during the game, we'd reveal the mechanic underlying the game, and then the kid would immediately just like disengage and walk off. And then the parents who were with the kids were like, "Oh wait, no, hold on, come back. You have to learn this. Like, this is important. This is what's wrong with your phone right now. This is why you're addicted to it." So that's definitely something that at Bluesky we definitely try to be very conscious of as we're designing. So yeah, I think also to riff off of that for this next question, are there any specific challenges or rewarding aspects of designing for a decentralized social landscape or on ATproto?
Yeah, I mean, I think the most rewarding thing is just it's so remixable. You can take anything and just like make it your own. You can give your own spin on things because it's so flexible and malleable, and there's not really so many fewer barriers to being able to do different things. So it feels like you're in a sandbox, and you can just like, or like we're playing with Legos, and there's just like so many different things you could possibly do, which can also be overwhelming. It's like, what exactly do I do here? But I think it is one of those. It's kind of like when you get like a fresh notebook, and you're like, well, what do I put on the first page here? And that's kind of what my journey was with making things in the Atmosphere. Is I'm just going to start making random things and see what happens. And I did that for about a year and that's when I eventually was like, okay, now that I've made all these different things, I'm going to actually try to like hone in on something. Of all the different things that I made, I want to hone in on one particular sort of niche and figure out like, how can I? This is the thing I love. This is the aspect of the Atmosphere I love, and I'm going to dive deeper into that because there's really so many different niches and parts of it, and I think that's what's interesting. It really does feel like there's something for everyone. Like journalists are doing things, artists are doing things, content creators are doing things, which is just so fun. I don't know. I don't feel like I've ever seen a community that has been able to like reach so many different types of people beyond just like software engineers and developers and those kind of folks. So I think that's my favorite part.
Yeah, I think it's pretty powerful, just the level of interop that we get for free out of this. But it's also can be super overwhelming for anyone who's trying to do something that much more complex. So there's like just trade-offs in knowing like what your product is, what you're trying to achieve. And yeah, I think that just adds either to the complexity or the beauty of it, but it's something to embrace, I think.
One of the most like wonderful things that I like about the ATproto and really just like applications on the Atmosphere is that since we're publishing these lexicons, it really opens up a lot of possibilities for communities to sort of form around even just your lexicons. So, for example, with You and Me it's a very simple concept, very simple lexicon, but the first thing that happened when I like sort of put it out there and announced it is people were like, oh, it should do this, it should have a leaderboard, it should have this, it should be, verifiable between like each person instead of just one-sided. And the really cool thing about ATproto is that that's all possible and I don't have to do it. So Business Goose, who's great, made a leaderboard that shows all of your connections and shows the top people that are connecting, and it's really cool because like that's something that the community really wanted. And like, of course, if I had more time, I would have loved to build that as well, but I also didn't want to overcomplicate what it is and make it more confusing than it needs to be. So it's really great that I can just make something that's like the simplest, like bare bones, like piece of the puzzle, and then anybody who wants to can come and build something on top of that and really extend the capabilities of the platform.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's something that's really surprised me about this community is exactly what you said. It's just like someone can have the seed of an idea and get it out there and share it, and then someone else can just totally take that and riff off of it and build something beautiful and build it in their own vision, and then someone else can just take it from there. So,
yeah, another really great thing is like with Standard Site. Like we just built the lexicons and the documentation and put it out there, and now there's like all these different like programs that help people implement it, which is really great because we didn't really provide that. We just said like, here it is. We're using it in our own ways. If you want to, you can figure it out too. But now we have like Sequoia and like, which makes it so that anybody can really publish like their static blogs to Standard Site. And all these other tools are being built on top of that, and all without us really doing anything other than being like, here's the lexicon, figure it out.
yeah, I remember when Standard.site launched, and there were a bunch of us at Bluesky who were super psyched. We were like, we had no intervention in this. It just kind of happened organically, and we love that. Yeah. Okay, here's another question here that's maybe a little bit more controversial, or yeah. So I think we're all surprised at how quickly AI has advanced, and we're all, I think, exploring it in our own ways and incorporating it into our own workflows. I'm just curious how it's shown up in your own process and how you've incorporated it into your work, if at all.
It's definitely very involved in my workflow. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a software engineer. I'm an artist, a communicator, that kind of person. So like I have, like any good millennial, I have, some knowledge of and experience making websites and HTML, CSS, that kind of thing. And I built some, rudimentary software things in other arenas, but prior to the Atmosphere, I'd never made a web app before, and so this was kind of like, okay, I'm gonna, I started working on my first little tool, I guess, 2 years ago, and at the time there was no Claude code, there was none of that. I was literally like sometimes typing into the Claude chatbot and just being like, explain this to me, what do I do here, like. And it couldn't really generate code bases or anything like that, so I was just asking it to like generate chunks of things, and then I would piece them together like Lego bricks. And whereas now it's very incredibly. I had a feeling it would get to the stage that it got to. I didn't quite expect it to get there this quickly. But yeah, I don't know. It's I still very much. There's still lots of elements of the process though that are, I feel like. Reserved for, I guess, myself to handle. Like there's, like the design piece is one of the things that I don't really involve Claude with that much. I think that's one of it's sort of the layer of the app that everyone sees and engages with, whereas the code is sort of all behind the scenes. And so yeah, the design component is one of the things I guess I just haven't really involved AI in very much, but I'm sure there are ways to do that. But yeah, for me, it's just mostly like, help me plan out the architecture of this feature and then write code for it, and then off to the races, really.
Yeah, so I've been coding since the late 1900s at this point, and I feel like I've gotten a lot under my belt, but to say that things have changed is just an understatement. I think I always start with wireframes. I always start with ideas first, and kind of flesh that out first, whether it's a story, whether it's an underlying concept. And then, slowly but surely introduce AI elements to allow you to really flesh it out and build things that would take years in months. But yeah, it's definitely a huge part of the process now.
A hot topic. I love that. Yeah, so I feel like with AI tools, it's really it's really a fine line between what is going to be actually helpful for people and what is like what we're calling AI slop, which is like stuff that we're just like, is this really like a good use of our like resources, and like is this good like for the planet, or like I don't know, but like I do think that there is a lot that is going to be very beneficial from AI, and a lot of a lot of possibilities that this is going to open up for everyday people and for developers alike. I actually started building Pocket Blog before the whole AI craze, but I don't think that Pocket Blog would be where it is today without tools like Claude Code. I've been like developing for a long time. I actually started coding on Roblox. I had a front page game back in the day, and I had like millions of views. And like I bought my first computer with Roblox money, which is like amazing. But Roblox, well, you could like transact. They have a developer exchange program. So if you get paid Robux on Roblox, you can cash that out for real money. So I bought my first computer with Roblox money, long story short. But yeah, like I don't think that I would be where I am today without like being able to use these new AI tools. But I did start, like the dream was there before this happened. So I'm really thankful for what we have, and I'm really excited to see like where this can move in a way that's going to be beneficial for everybody involved, and hopefully things will move away from the more catastrophic side, which if we're the ones that can make that happen. And I think that it's really important for us to like put our best foot forward and be responsible with how we use these things, and not take advantage of, the power that it gives.
Thank goodness for Roblox.
Thank goodness for Roblox.
Yeah, I think something that's been really surprising to me is I used to be very anti-AI, like up until like 6 months ago, actually. And in my mind, I don't have a technical bone in my body. I'm a pure designer. And up until recently, I was like, oh, design's just like a developer thing. It's just like, it makes them work faster. That's great. But what I've been really surprised by is its comprehension of design has been leveled up tenfold in the last couple of months, and to the point where I can send a screenshot and just say, hey, what do you think about this flow or this interaction, and it will give me really solid feedback as if it was from like a senior designer that I was working with or collaborating with. So I have incorporated it into my design process, definitely with Figma. And I'm excited to see where it goes. I've been exploring tools with actually designing. I don't think they're quite there yet, but it's definitely a good collaborator in feedback. So I'm excited to see how it evolves and how it, I'm definitely going to keep exploring with it. Cool, we're down to our last question here. I think a lot of people in the audience are builders who are looking to really upgrade their design. Do you have any recommendations or advice for people who want to build beautiful experiences?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I guess there's really two paths. Well, and there's many paths, but the two big sort of broad groups that I think of are folks that want to actually learn like the nitty-gritty elements of design and like make that an actual like discipline and focus for themselves, versus folks that want to they don't really want to be designers necessarily, but they want, maybe you're a software engineer and you want your web apps or apps and things just to look better. I mean, I think there's definitely like a phenomenon we're seeing even in the atmosphere where, now that, Claude Code exists and it's much easier to build web apps and ship things, there's definitely, I feel like a lot of folks are not really thinking about the design side of things, and what you end up seeing is like user interfaces that look very, very similar. Like you go to one website and it looks the same as the next, and so like if you're in that boat and you're not trying to like actually go deep on design, like I think there's some very practical things that you can learn to help steer these tools in the right direction so that the things that you are creating better reflect your own unique style or tastes or things, and they don't just end up looking like vanilla whatever comes out of the thing. whereas if you actually want to go deep into design, I mean, I think a lot of that stuff hasn't changed. I mean, I think it's you have to be reading books. You have to be looking at some of the great designers of the past, and that work is still incredibly relevant. And I think, for me, it's a big part of the process is just regularly consuming good art and good design and letting that sort of absorb into my brain and influence me, because it's very ambiguous feeling. It's not like it's not a switch you can flip. It just takes a lot of consuming lots of good content and good ideas and design, so that on the other end, your own unique take on things flows out on the other end, and it's not generic.
Definitely. I think a good. Oh, you're good. I think a good designer just borrows from designs, but to be a great designer, you have to study from the world. Study movies, games, other media and other mediums that influence you to make a better design. And just keep your mind open. Try new things, try new applications. Don't stay rigid in one thing, and it'll help you out. The mind is like a parachute. It only works when it's open.
Those are really great points. I don't want to get repetitive, so I believe a lot of the same things. The bit of advice that I would have is to really just think about who your application is for and put yourself in their shoes. And also, after you design something, think of the least technical person that you know and show them your design. And if they're confused, you need to start over. So yeah, that's really it. You want to think about who's going to be using your application first, and then think about who you would want to use your application that maybe doesn't fit into that initial category of people, and really design for them.
Yeah, I love that. I love all of those answers. Never underestimate the power of a user test too. I feel like I've had so many assumptions from heads down on something, and then I just put it in front of someone else, and it makes no sense to them, and I'm like, oh, okay, back to the drawing board. So that's a really powerful way to upgrade your design
Even if
quickly.
it's just one person.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Well, awesome. I think that's all we have for you today. I truly believe that anyone can be anyone who's looking to level up their skills. Feel free to talk to me or reach out to me or anyone up here, and ask for feedback and ask for, I would be happy to look over anyone's work and the projects that they're working on right now and give that feedback. So yeah, I just want to thank you all again for coming up here and sharing your thoughts. Can I get a quick photo? Yeah.